Hello, everyone. Today, I'm actually going to share a very heartwarming story that happened back in 1999. And it's one of the stories that is in one of the books that I'm writing. But it was a real story, and it involved Christmas, my nephew, and a bunch of deer prints. Now, you might be thinking, does this have something to do with Santa Claus? Who knows? But let me tell you what happened. You see, it was 1999, and I had gone home for Christmas. I was living in Las Vegas at the time, and my parents had retired up to their home in Michigan, the log cabin in the woods. And we all got to be there that year. My older brother and his wife and his two kids, myself and my younger brother, Mick. My nephew was 6, and he was very angry at his parents for making him go up north to visit Grandma and Grandpa for Christmas. Because, as he said, how is Santa Claus supposed to find us if we're not home? Little did he know, Santa always knows where you're at. So it came time for Christmas Eve. And we're trying to get all the Ronnie and Savannah to bed. Savannah was easy. She's only 6 months old. But Ronnie didn't want to go to bed. He wanted to stay up and wait for Santa Claus because he wanted to make sure Santa Claus actually found him. We finally convinced him Santa Claus was not going to show up if he didn't go to bed. So Tina took the kids upstairs and put them to bed, while my mom helped my brother Ron get the milk and cookies out and set it all up. And my brother was just going to leave it like that. And my mom's like, what are you doing? You need to take a couple bites of the cookie. You need to drink some of the milk. That way he's going to notice when he gets up in the morning, and he's going to realize that Santa Claus came. So my brother took a couple bites of cookie, took a couple drinks of the milk, and he put them both down. And then we all decided to go to bed. Mick was sleeping out on the enclosed front porch, which is actually where the Christmas tree was. I was up in my bedroom upstairs, and Ronnie and Tina and the kids were across the hall, and Mom and Dad were downstairs in their bedroom. All was well until about, probably about 6:30 the next morning, when we all got woken up by these hysterical screaming going on downstairs. So you can imagine what my younger brother was experiencing since he was sleeping down by the tree. But Ronnie Jr. had gotten up and snuck downstairs and noticed that a couple of the bites of cookies were gone and that the milk wasn't as full as it was when he went to bed. And there were tons of presents under the tree. So he comes running upstairs to his mom and dad's room. And my brother so generously said, go wake your aunt up. She'll go downstairs with you. Luckily, I was already awake, thanks to all that screaming coming from a 6-year-old. He come flying into my bedroom, jumped on the bed, and started yelling, you got to come downstairs. You got to come downstairs. Santa did find us. Santa did find us. I'm like, okay. All right, let me get my robe and slippers on. And I said, I'll come downstairs with you because I wanted to see what all the screaming was about. We walked downstairs. We walked out into the enclosed front porch. And I noticed my brother was wide awake. I said, oh, so you got woken up also? And he goes, it's kind of hard to sleep with a 6-year-old screaming in your ear. And I'm like looking around at all the presents on the floor. And I was like, holy smokes, Santa Claus was here. So Ronnie Jr. was having the time of his life. You know, he was so ecstatic because Santa Claus had found them in the middle of the woods in Upper Michigan. By then, my mom and dad had finally come out of their room. My brother and his wife had come downstairs with the baby. And I was going around opening up the blinds to let the light in. And I got to the blinds in the dining room. And I happened to look out the window. And there was a perfect set of hoof prints. Just one set. You couldn't see where they came from. You couldn't see where they left. It was like somebody from above plopped a deer down. And I'm like, that's interesting. I'm thinking to myself, how in the heck did mom and dad do that? Or did Ronnie do it? So I asked my parents how they got those hoof prints outside without making any tracks. And my mom was like, what are you talking about? We didn't go outside. I took her over to the window and showed her. And she's like, oh my God. She goes, well, who did that? So of course she calls over my dad. He didn't know what we were talking about. He didn't do it. And Ronnie's like, what are you talking about? I was sleeping. I didn't go outside and put any hoof prints outside. So there was a minute. So then I called Ronnie Jr. over and I said, look, I said, see, look at the hoof prints outside, standing, looking in the window. Santa sent a lookout to make sure all good little boys and girls were in bed, which got him really excited because he's like, oh my God, let's go outside. Let's go outside. Well, nobody wanted to go outside with him, least of all me, because I don't like cold. But he talked me into it. And like the good aunt that I was, I bundled him up, got a snowsuit on, got his boots on, his gloves and everything else. And then I bundled myself up and braved the cold because it was cold and the snow was deep. And I walked over by the window and yep, sure enough, there was no tracks leading up to that set of tracks you could see from the window. There were no tracks leading away from it back into the woods. I peeked around the corner of the house. There was no tracks there going down the hill. And I'm like, what the heck? Where did this set of deer tracks come from? So I told Ronnie Jr., I said, okay, let's go look. Let's see what else we can find. We walked down the hill, looking all over the patio down below. No deer tracks, nothing, just lots of fresh snow because it had snowed overnight. So then I walked over to the side of the yard because the way their house was built, it was up on a hill. You could walk out of the basement and then you had to go down even another hill to get to the lake. So I started walking down that hill and I got partway down and all of a sudden, tons of hoof prints everywhere. But you couldn't tell where they came from. And we followed them down to the lake and they disappeared. They did not go across the lake, even though it was frozen. They didn't wander off to the side. They didn't go right, left, and they didn't turn around and back up and come up the other way. Where did those deer go? So this is a story that came out of my mouth when I was talking to my nephew. Santa had noticed that they were not home, so he came looking for them. But again, he needed to make sure that everybody was asleep before he came down. So he sent his lookout deer to go look in the window. When they realized everybody was sleeping and no little kids were running around downstairs, the rest of the team brought the sleigh down onto the bottom of the hill, deposited all the presents, got back in the sleigh, and they took up off over the lake onto their next stop. And he was excited because he was like, whoa, this is so cool that Santa would do this. Santa took his time to find us. Sure. Yeah, and I'm still thinking like, how did this happen? Where did these deer come from that left these prints, and where did they go? They couldn't have just flown off into the air. Could they? So we go back up to the house, and I told my mom and dad and my brother what I found down there. They did not believe me. Nope. So my dad's like, I'm going to prove to you you're wrong. Guess what? He couldn't. He got all dressed up in his gear. He cheated. He took a sled down the hill, got there faster. But he did it in a way so that he wouldn't disturb the hoof prints. And he's looking next door because our cabin was right next door. So he's looking next door thinking, well, they came through the brush in the, where the cabin was, behind the cabin. No hoof prints. There was just a line of them at the bottom of their yard to the lake. And then right at the lake's edge, they stopped. And he goes, that's impossible. And I was like, not if it was Santa's reindeer, it's not. And he's looking at me like I'm the nutty one here. And I'm like, but who are you to say it really didn't happen? I said, because remember when we were all kids, that Christmas Eve that we spent at Grandma and Grandpa's house with me, Ronnie, and Mick in the basement along with our two cousins, we heard sleigh bells. And we thought Dad was up on the roof ringing the sleigh bells. Well, my cousins were like 10, 11 years older than me. So they really didn't care that much. But we were young. So we snuck upstairs because we wanted to see who was ringing the sleigh bells. We went outside figuring we'd catch my dad or my grandpa or even my uncle. Didn't see anybody outside. So we went in the garage anyway. So we went outside in the backyard and looked up on the rooftop. Still nobody up there. We went back into the house and into the front of the house. Looked out front there. Nobody sitting there ringing sleigh bells, yet we could still hear them. Then we walked over to the fireplace, looking up the fireplace because we thought maybe Santa had gotten stuck and he was ringing his sleigh bells for help to get out. Nothing up the chimney either. So then we snuck into my mom and dad's room to peek and see who was missing. Nope, both of them were there. Peeked in Grandma and Grandpa's room. Yep, both of them were there in bed, sound asleep. My aunt and uncle were sound asleep in their bed. But yet you could still hear sleigh bells up on top of the roof. We never did figure that one out either. But it's also a story to let you know about hope and dreams and joy. The time of year where the holidays come in, where you can believe again in Christmas and Santa Claus and reindeer, flying reindeer that bring you gifts of joy. Okay, toys too, But it's a time to remember your childhood and that it all lives within us. We just need to tap in and remember. So I hope you guys have a very, very wonderful start to the holiday season. I know Thanksgiving is coming up right around the corner. For some of us, it's kind of a tough time because we've lost a lot of family members around this time. But it's still a time to be thankful. Thankful for your life, thankful for your health, thankful for your friends, thankful for the roof over your head and the food that you have to eat. But remember the joy of being a child and that Santa really does exist, and so do his reindeers. Walk in beauty, everyone. Bye for now.